Hi everyone, welcome to Potluck Food Talks, episode 6. Today we're going to talk about kebab, aka Döner Kebab.
Salam alaikum, Eric. How are you doing? You good?
I'm good. I actually had a durum today for lunch, just to get psychologically prepared for the episode. I actually had this rule, and my friends also had it. It was never eat a doner outside of Berlin. And for a long time, I went with the rule. But I mean, I got more flexible with time, and there are also some acceptable kebabs outside of Berlin.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I mean, if you're from Berlin or you spent a long time in Berlin, I think you have a very special connection to anything that's Döner Kebab, right? I think it's fair to say that, a big part of our friendship started over, sharing Döner Kebabs late at night in Berlin.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about it. Like after work kebabs, 2 a.m. after a long shift in a restaurant.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and that's part of like what makes kebabs so great. No, they're just super convenient. And I mean, for me, honestly speaking, kebabs are by far one of my favorite foods. Right? No, seriously. I mean, hear me out. Like kebabs for me, they're on the same level as pizza, and the fact that in their structure, they're very, very simple. And they can be, of course, super trashy. I think like a lot of people, they associate kebabs with sort of like very cheap and often not very high quality food. But you and me both know perfectly well that a kebab can be absolutely fucking amazing.
Yeah, I mean, for a long time, I nourished myself only from kebab as a young student in Berlin, like three meals a day. And I thought this was good because it had all the nutrients, which is not. That's not true. If somebody told you that, don't do that. And after like 4 years, I got a little bit tired of it, but it were like 4 years eating kebab like at least once a day.
I don't believe what you're saying right now.
After a few years without eating doners, I have to say I miss them.
I mean, honestly, it's one of the things I miss the most about living in Berlin, And I mean, I personally, I categorize into doner kebabs, not just the Turkish doner kebabs. And I mean, in that category, there's a lot of different things also going on, but also like the Lebanese sandwiches and shawarma sandwiches. And I also just generally categorize falafel sandwiches into that category, Israeli food, all those sorts of things.
Yeah, I mean, like these are also to go a little bit through the history, doners and what is known as kebabs worldwide. This is something that started in Berlin in the 60s from Turkish immigrants. And kebab basically it means this meat stick where you cut the meat to make a sandwich. And this influenced other street food cultures like the Greek, the gyros. This came out of this subculture of street food in Berlin. And even tacos al pastor in Mexico, they imported the machines where they were doing doners in Berlin to make this kind of tacos in Mexico. So it's something that became quite international.
Is that actually true? That it originated from that like thing in Berlin?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
The kebab is something much older that comes from...
Of course.
Now you have to say Turkey instead of Turkey. Well, in any way, it came from Turkish immigrants. And but it's something that you find now in every city in Europe, but it originated in Berlin in the 60s.
Yeah, I mean, that it originated in Berlin, I knew. And obviously the kebab as itself, is, I think, one of the oldest foods in the world, the fact of like meat grilled over fire, whether it's like an Adana kebab, for people who aren't as familiar with Turkish grilling culture as we are, is, minced meat that is seasoned and then like put on a stick in a sort of like long flat fashion and then it's grilled, and sort of like meat grilled and then put in a piece of bread. Or, some like roasted chicken shredded up and put in a piece of bread with condiments and sauces. I think that's one of the oldest foods in the world, we can safely say. But like, it's crazy to me that tacos al pastor, which are such an iconic thing, especially in Mexico City, that actually originated in the way that it's like today, on the trompos, the stacks of meat that are roasting on a fire. That came from that. That's incredible. I didn't know that.
I wouldn't be sure about that. I can imagine but we could make an episode about tacos. But I can imagine this was a tradition, and then it became they used like a more modern piece of equipment to.
Yeah. No, of course. I mean, tacos al pastor, they came from the Spanish and Middle Eastern influences in Mexico. I mean, they go way back. But I mean, obviously nowadays you find the tacos al pastor, they use this like big doner stand where they cut out from. Yeah.
So let's break it down. What do you find in a doner kebab? You have the bread. You have the meat where you can choose between lamb or chicken. Then usually you can choose between 3 sauces: a spicy sauce, which is a Turkish thick spicy sauce, a garlic mayo, and a yogurt herb sauce, right? And then you have like the vegetables, which are usually purple cabbage, iceberg lettuce, onion, and sometimes in some places they put a mixture of herbs, right? Like cilantro, sometimes even mint. Anything else?
I mean, I've actually never seen coriander. I mean, I often see like a sort of tabbouleh sort of style, like parsley chopped with like stuff, But I think, definitely like tomato, onion, lettuce, cabbage, really, really crucial and I mean, there you see the like German influence that they put like I don't know, maybe is it German? Maybe I'm just associating it with it. And the 3 iconic sauces for sure. And I mean, we need to address that. We're talking about the Döner Kebab, right? We're not talking about dürüm. We're not talking about lahmacun right now. We're talking about the iconic Döner, right? Which you have to have in the Turkish style sesame bread. That bread must have a proper name, right?
This is like a big round flat bread that you usually cut into slices, and one of those slices is where you build your sandwich, right? I don't know the name of that bread.
And I mean, like, that is the iconic doner, no? It's like usually it's supposed to be veal, right? Veal or chicken.
No lamb. Oh.
No, because it's like I think there's like a thing that it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be a mixture of veal and lamb.
Yeah, because this is like minced meat mixture that they put on the stick, and it gets cut into fine shapes, and this is what you get in your bread. So, and I would say like the quality key indicators are, first, the bread has to be hot and nicely toasted. If it's not, then the whole thing doesn't work. Same with the meat. And I would say those are the most critical points. I remember a place in Wedding, which is a neighborhood in Berlin. There was this big kebab restaurant that was always empty. And across the street was like a small kiosk, a doner kiosk in the street. And people would wait in line to get their doners. And this is so funny because they would do this in the middle of winter. And I would analyze which the difference were. Why are people waiting in line for one where you can't even sit? You have to eat in the street, and the other one is completely empty. And I would say the sauces weren't as good. And these guys would always wait to have the perfectly roasted meat and perfectly warm bread before serving. Even if the people had to wait in line, then they had to win. That's that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I would agree with you. The bread is really, really important. And then, of course, the salad ingredients and the sauces, they're also very important. But like you say, I think really key is the way they play around with grilling the meat. Because for people who aren't super familiar with it, you have to imagine that you have this big stack of meat that is turning round and round next to a wall of flame. And obviously the outside of the meat is cooking and caramelizing, and the inside is still raw or like slowly cooking. So it's super key that you play around with it so that this meat tornado isn't like overcooking on the outside, so that when you cut it off, the meat's really dry. And like maybe it's like crispy and caramelized, but it's like really, really dry and sort of like chewy. It has to be that sort of like sweet spot of like caramelized on the outside, but still really juicy. And often, when you go to a spot that's not super popular, you'll have meat that's like they slice it off and they kind of hold it on the side, because otherwise it would over caramelize while the rest of the meat is cooking. But if you hold it too long, obviously it dries out. So they're also sort of like, if a place isn't like as good, it's not popular enough, then the meat just hangs out for too long, and right straight away the quality of the whole doner drops.
Do you have any favorite one, like a favorite doner place in Berlin?
So I have one which is like a little bit untraditional. It's Lebanese instead of Turkish, which I had amazing shawarmas at. And for me, like I said, we were talking about the classic doner, but for me, in the like category of kebabs, falls also durum.
Can you explain what durum is?
Yeah, of course. I mean, basically, the only thing that changes is the bread. Instead of like having this fluffy on the inside, crispy on the outside, Turkish sesame bread, you have a very thin sort of flat bread, kind of like a laffa bread or like a flour tortilla almost, no? That they then gets rolled into what you could, for giving a reference to people, sort of gets rolled into a burrito. I mean, it's either really in all the doner places in Germany, it's either doner or dürüm. And then also you have lahmacun, no, which is a completely different thing, which is like a Turkish pizza that also gets fillings. And a shawarma is kind of like a dürüm, so it's also roasted meat in a flatbread or a pizza bread. It's just kind of like a little bit of a different style, right? And so there's this place in Prenzlauer Berg called Babel. And they used to have, because I haven't been in many years, but they used to have an amazing chicken shawarma. And so what made it very, very special was, first of all, the meat was really nicely roasted and seasoned really, really nicely. They had a really nice sort of Lebanese garlic sauce, that sort of sauce where the garlic is just emulsified. It's not like a mayonnaise, it's not egg-based, it's just garlic and oil. And it's like really fluffy and intense and garlicky. But what really distinguished them was the salad ingredients that they put in, because they put in fresh radishes, like cut radishes, and also a lot of herbs, especially garden cress. A lot of garden cress. And it made the whole thing like really, garden cress is a really old school German ingredient that not a lot of people use that much anymore. But it gave it this like really nice spiciness, and freshness. It's super, super tasty.
My favorite doner is a place called Mira in Neukölln, near Kranolstraße. And this place, the nice thing is that they work on a charcoal grill, and then it's open super late. You can go there like at 5 a.m. because I think that they're also famous for their breakfasts. So this is probably a prep cook that is there for breakfast prep, but also has to give service if someone walks in at 4 a.m. because
if some drunk and stoned degenerates walk in.
And that's the only place you find open at that time. And that's the time where you want to eat a doner the most if you're super drunk.
100%.
So we went to this place. Actually, on my last trip to Berlin, I went there, and all of my friends, they didn't know this place. And yeah, there is this guy making the doner freshly on a charcoal grill. And it has completely different toppings and sauces. Also like kind of like a tabbouleh salad, and really nice sauces, especially the spicy ones. So it's something completely different, like a completely style of seasoning and everything, and it's super nice. The other one that is super famous is Mustafa. This is the one that you will probably see on TripAdvisor of this kind of platforms on the internet. You have to wait in line like for an hour to get a doner, and it's good. It's really good. So not my favorite. What they do different is that they add some herbs to it and also cheese. we forgot to say that there are some places where you can add this white savory cheese to your dinner, and I think that's also a very wise thing to do if you're getting a dinner.
Yeah, for sure. And also, like, what they do is they add lots of roasted vegetables in. No, it's kind of what they're famous for. It's sort of like, aubergine and peppers and stuff like that. And they're kind of like deep fried, I think.
Yeah, that they kind of coined the term of vegetable kebab, Gemüse kebab in German. And that's exactly what they do. They get sticks of different vegetables and they deep fry it and just add it to your kebab.
Yeah, it's super tasty. I mean, it's very nice. It's a little bit hyped up, and I never used to go there so much because I just didn't want to wait with all the tourists. But yeah, it's definitely very nice. There's other places that add vegetables as well. But yeah, they definitely made a name for themselves. One other döner that I really, really love is also obviously in Berlin. And it's called Imren Döner. It's quite well known. It's quite established. They have a few locations around Berlin, but it used to be right next to my house in Rathaus Neukölln. And they used to spice their döner meat just a little bit differently. I feel like it had like a little bit of cinnamon and like a little bit of clove to it. And it was just always very, very nice. And big difference for them also was that they were baking a lot. So it wasn't just a döner place. It was kind of like a canteen. They had a big counter with freshly cooked daily meals. I actually used to go there more for their lamb and white bean soup, because I used to be, super broke line cook and had no money. I used to go there for regular dinner, and you would buy for like €3, you'd buy a plate of hot lamb and bean soup that you then put loads of lemon juice and chili on top, and you get a huge hunk of this like toasted sesame bread. It was absolutely fucking delicious. But their döner also, they bake all the bread there. They bake fresh lahmacun and in like a stone oven, and toast the bread in there also. And that combination, is just amazing. They're super, super nice.
So lahmacun is what they sometimes also call Turkish pizza. It's basically, what is it exactly? It's like the flatbread, but it's not tomato sauce. It's something else, right?
So I can tell you exactly what it is, because lahmacun is one of my favorite things in the whole wide world. It's yeah, really, it's so fucking good. And so what you do is you have a mixture of lamb mince that you then season, right? So often you make a mixture of sort of like chopped vegetables, which would be peppers, like red peppers and like onions and garlic. You squeeze the water out of them, and then you add that to your meat mixture, together with other spices, cumin and paprika and those sorts of things. I hope there's no purists out there that will kill me if I say something incorrect. But
no paprika in your lahmacun.
He puts paprika in his lahmacun. But yeah, so basically you make this like seasoned meat and vegetable mixture and then you have a bread dough that you roll out really, really, really thin. And then you basically, while it's still raw, the bread, you spread this meat mixture really thinly over the bread. Difference to pizza is that this bread dough, it doesn't really have any yeast in it, so it's not going to rise. It's not going to puff up, and you spread the mixture basically to the very, very edge. And it's much thinner than a pizza also. And then you bake this really, really quickly, really hot. And a lot of time, like you can either eat it as it is, but a lot of times you bake this thing fresh, you take it out, you add in salads and condiments, but no extra meat because you've got your meat already on there, and sauces, definitely like a yogurt sauce, and roll it up. And it's a lot more crispy on the outside. And it's like when you get it freshly baked with sort of like arugula salad and onions and, like sumac onions and yogurt dressing, and you roll that up. For me, it's the perfect food because you have everything, freshly baked bread, you have a little bit of meat, vegetable salads. It's a very, very authentic sort of type of, you can't really call it a kebab because there's no kebab, but yeah.
Well, there's also the thing that I think it's like, for me, a weakness while eating kebab is that most of the kebab places are Muslim, so you won't find any alcohol. Because I would say the perfect pairing would be a beer with your kebab. But well, since it's not allowed or you won't get it like right there in many places, and the most traditional places, what you usually drink is ayran, which is like a savory liquid yogurt, something really weird for people that is not from there. But I love it. I love to eat my dinner with an ayran. I last time I was in Berlin, I was with a friend and I gave him to try it, and he just wouldn't understand, like, why would you drink this? Like, I want like just like a soda, you know?
Yeah, but ayran is amazing. I mean, like once you get hooked on the ayran, it's like it's super refreshing. It sounds so strange, like drinking salty yogurt, but it's like it's really satisfying, and I think it's really really refreshing also. And it's really perfect. I mean, like if you think about it, it's kind of like drinking like a lighter yogurt sauce together with your kebab, you know, because you're kind of drinking it on the side and then you're eating your kebab. And I love going to the places, like you already know that the places like is cool and authentic when they have those like frothy ayran fountains.
Oh yeah,
yeah, you know, where the ayran is sort of like it's kind of sucked through this tube and then like you know, channeled out, and they kind of tap it straight from the sauce, and it becomes really frothy and airy. Super nice.
A few weeks ago, I was hanging out with Per Merling from Berlin Food Stories. And he's probably one of the persons who knows most about street food in Berlin. And he was telling me that since this whole migration crisis with refugees from Syria, there has a new category of kebabs emerged, like Syrian kebabs, and you find them more and more in different places in Neukölln. Neukölln is one of the most Turkish neighborhoods in Berlin, along with Kreuzberg, which is something that I have completely missed out. So the next time I go to Berlin, I really want to go and try those Syrian kebabs.
That's really exciting, actually, because I haven't heard about this. And for me, this is incredibly exciting, you know, because this is kind of what we were talking about in our episode of cultural appropriation, you know, this like mixing and merging of different cultures. And I love to see it, you know. It's like, for me, it's super, super exciting that other people, like people from a different culture, would come into the city and adapt to this like huge food culture of Döner and Kebab, you know, which I mean is probably the strongest food culture in Berlin by far.
By far, for sure. Well, and talking about culture mixtures, my friend Chappie from New York, he visited me once in Berlin, and you will find these places that are at the same time a dinner place, and they use the same oven to make pizzas, and sometimes they even have like a Chinese place in the same business inside. You know, this kind of things happens in big cities. So, and he got obsessed to go to this place and ask them to make a margarita and then put all the doner ingredients up on top of it and roll it like a durum. And he was like, yeah, please do it. And they were like, no, we can't do that. Call the owner. I want to talk with the owner. And they called the pizzaiolo. And he was like really intimidated. Like, I don't know if I can do this. Yeah, okay, let's do it. So they did it. And they did the whole margarita thing. I have pictures of it. I should post some of these pictures. All of the ingredients. And he was like, yeah, I want to see you putting the sauce on top. Yeah. And then they wouldn't roll it. Like, no. Okay, we came this far, but we're not taking responsibility of rolling this monster. That's up to you. So they gave us margaritas with a super extra topping of doner ingredients in the middle, and we rolled them. And these things were huge, you know, like I don't know, like if you roll a newspaper, that thick the things were.
That sounds fucking amazing. Your friend is a genius. That sounds absolutely incredible. It's just like, I think this is really, really visionary what he's doing. I'm definitely going to try and do that. When he first said, yeah, margarita, and like put put stuff on it. I thought you were talking about the cocktail margarita, and I was like, man, sounds like a really fucked up sort of like savory Bloody Mary kind of alcohol drink. Yeah, but that sounds like an amazing idea. I mean, those places are such a they're so strange. These like mixed sort of like we do a little bit of everything place that's exactly the sort of place where you need to live out your most perverted, bizarre, degenerate food fantasies, you know? This is exactly the kind of place where you need to live these sorts of fantasies out.
Have you ever done a dinner or a durum or a kebab, like cooked one for yourself or for a staff meal or anything?
So yeah, actually, I have in a way. I mean, like I would say that I've done lots of kebabs throughout my life, just because I love them so much. Döner, you know, I mean, you can't really do without you having like the
proper machines. Yeah,
the proper machines. Yeah, I mean, of course, you can like rotisserie grill it, but what I have done quite a lot and what I've had huge success with, even at home, and it's one of my favorite things to make, and probably like if I think about the sort of things like my repertoire of what I cook at home, it's one of my favorite things to cook at home because it's just so incredibly delicious. It's lahmacun. And it's like, it works so well. And it's by far one of the things that I enjoy the most. It's so delicious to me. Making the bread, making the mixture, and baking it. And then straight away, when it comes out of the oven, just having like, I make simple like red onions that I salt and season with a little bit of sumac. And then I have a mixed salad. It definitely has to be some arugula in it and some parsley, kind of like tabbouleh style. And then I make a yogurt sauce, which has to have garlic in it and a lot of lemon juice, a lot of acidity. And that mixture together is super simple. A lot of onion, a lot of this arugula salad, and a lot of this yogurt sauce. You have to bake the bread until it's just crispy enough, or rather say, so it's just soft enough so that you can roll it still without it breaking, but so that when it cools down, it starts getting those crispy edges. And man, it's so fucking delicious. Like it's just like one of the best things. It really is.
Now I want to go to Istanbul or some city in Turkey.
You've been in Israel really, really recently, no?
Yeah. Over there, I tried like, it's called sabish, and it's like a vegan kind of sandwich, Middle Eastern sandwich as well. And this was insane. Probably one of the best vegan sandwiches, or for sure the best one I've ever had. This was in Tel Aviv.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the food culture in Israel is so incredibly interesting, you know, and especially those sorts of things, you know. I mean, you know, it doesn't really count as kebabs, but like the falafel culture and these sort of like, you know, sort of like things in a bread that kind of are a little bit similar to, you know, kebab setup, you know.
I also, another interesting experience was in like one of the best restaurants in Tel Aviv. And they had, you mean in all of these good restaurants, they have like, you would say a pizza oven, but these are like pita bread ovens, and you get like freshly baked pita bread. And in some places they even go like really thick, you know, like 3 centimeters, that's like a size you wouldn't expect for a pita bread. And by far the best pita breads I've ever tried.
I've tried making pita breads, but I haven't quite got the hang of it. It's there's a little bit of finesse to it, you know. It's, for me, it's really one of the most enjoyable ways of eating. I don't really know what it is about it, if it's the simplicity of it, and it's like, you know, it's so fully ingredient driven again, you know. It's like good bread, good meat, like nicely prepared, grilled usually, which for me is always an added bonus. It gives you that full character of sort of like, you know, roasted meat. And then like fresh salad ingredients. It's by far one, like a food category that I enjoy the most.
So what would you recommend if someone goes to Berlin and wants to try a doner? What are the do's and don'ts?
Oof, I don't think that there are that many do's and don'ts. I think, although I hate to say it, don't be afraid to pay a little bit more because it's worth it. Don't get this like, don't look at a doner like this cheap, trashy item, because it can be really, really amazing. And if you pay a little bit more in the right places, you're going to get a much better product. You have to be aware that with a doner, you can get the trashiest, filthiest thing that's going to just completely throw you off, and you might get food poisoning. Or you can get something that's really lovingly made, and that's just really, really good. So don't be discouraged. I would say go to the really authentic places, like talk to the locals, and definitely visit, the must do's. Go to Mustafa's Gemüse Kebab for sure, but also give the small places a try, where you see that there's a lot of people sitting inside, a lot of locals sitting inside, where people are queuing up. It's always the giveaway key. If you see that they're baking bread, that's a green flag straight away. And just go by your gut feeling, go by your nose, sort of like if it looks good, it smells good, if there's people inside eating.
Yeah, you will find the most traditional places in Kreuzberg and Neukölln, but that doesn't mean that these are the only good ones. You will find good dinners all over the city.
Yeah, for sure. And when you're in the more traditional places, for example, like in Schöneberg or something like that, or in Wedding, maybe like try something else that's on the menu. I used to go to a place that made very, very good doner, but actually what I used to go back for was their sheep's head soup, because it was just super, super nice. And it became a little bit of a ritual with a friend of mine who was from Schöneberg. So we'd often drive through there after we'd gone out drinking, and it would be early in the morning. We would stop before going home and eat a sheep's head soup, which was the best hangover cure. And yeah, it's, I would see doner culture in Berlin as, like a lot deeper than just fast food. It's like, it's a whole culture of people that are expressing their food identity, their cultural food identity through this medium. Yeah. I'm super hungry now. I really want it. And there's no doner here. There's no kebabs here in Hong Kong. What's our next episode?
I think Asian supermarkets is a fun one to do because it's so broad,
I'm literally ordering food right now. Talking about doner made me so hungry, man.